What's up, guys? War here. Welcome back to the channel. Yes, we are back with another Diablo 4 tier list going into Season 10. So, we got a lot to talk about in this video. I'm going to go over a lot of things and just kind of break some stuff down. However, the TLDR is every class is absolutely amazing this season in Season 10. With the Chaos powers being able to amplify every single class and every single build and every single skill that you have. I mean, there's really going to be very little difference between any of the classes this season. However, if you do want to push the upper echelons of 130s, then there's probably a couple classes that can really do that. That's going to be your Barbarian, your Spiritborn, and probably your Necromancer. Sorceress is actually a huge buff this season. I'll talk about that in a second. Druid is very good when it comes to pit pushing this season with all of the buffs. But if you're not interested in pit pushing, and like trying to really reach 130, which doesn't give you any difference between running a level 50 pit, there's going to be no real difference. So that's the TLDR, guys, of it. The Chaos powers are just going to make every single class, every single build absolutely amazing. So in reality, every single class is right here. So I want you to pick your absolute poison, whatever you want to do. Now, I'm going to go ahead and reset this. Now, let's get into the actual real tier list based on all the changes in the patch notes and what we accomplished during the PTR. So let's start off with the biggest losers of Season 10 in this tier list. Okay, I'm going to have to put it this way. It really does suck, but the biggest loser is Rogue. It's really unfortunate that the Diablo 4 devs just balance classes in a weird way where, like, for a season and a half, Rogue was here with Death Trap. They nerfed Death Trap 5 times in a row throughout a season and a half, and because there's no other builds, Rogue comes down here. Yes, they did make those changes to Flurry, but again, since the dawn of this game 2 years ago, Flurry is an awful skill and nobody plays it. It was cool to see them do some kind of changes to Flurry, but again, it just fell short and nobody really cares about Flurry. We haven't had Twisting Blades in forever. A lot of the range builds are just not incredible in comparison to some of the other classes and the amount of damage we can do. Again, guys, we're talking about comparing billions to trillions of damage because every class in the game does trillions, if not quadrillions. So, but based on the changes, Rogue is definitely the biggest loser of Season 10, which is unfortunate. It is going to have a couple builds, like Twisting Blades, but Dance of Knives is going to be back this season. Death Trap is there, but it's really only the best build that it has. I mean, there is like Rain of Arrows, Penetrating Shot, but those things are just like high B, A tier, nothing really crazy. I mean, you're going to get by, but with that said, Rogue, it sucks because this is one of my favorite classes, if not my favorite class behind Sorcerer. So Rogue is definitely the biggest loser of Season 10. Now, let's get into the second biggest loser of Season 10. That is going to be Druid, which we're going to put at C tier. Now, Druid did get a lot of good changes. There's going to be a few builds this season that are going to be really fun, like Companions or Ravens, the Wolves. Those are going to be cool. Pulverize is back, which we saw in the PTR, which is great with Pulverize, and you use like Poison Puddles and stuff like that. But really, outside of that, man, Druid is... it's just okay. There's really not a whole lot going on for Druid. It still has probably one of the widest build varieties in the game, but it still is just, I don't know. There's just something lacking. It almost seems like the devs just don't know which way to take Druid, if they want to just focus on the elements or if they want to focus on the shape-shifting and, companion route, because we haven't had a werewolf build since like Season 1, Season 2. So it's been real bad. I mean, we've had a few werewolf builds along the way, and Pulverize and like the Werebear builds have just been awful for the last like 6 seasons. So I just don't know if the devs have like an identity for Druid and which way they want to take it. They kind of just have it as like a jack of all trades and it just kind of does everything. But there's very few builds where it's just like, it's like, that's it. Like that's super great. So Druid definitely, even with some of the changes, like Druid is just not super great going into season 10. Now, these last 4 classes. Okay, next I'm going to start with Necromancer at B tier. The reason I'm putting Necromancer here instead of A tier is because it was just at the top of the leaderboards when it came to builds for the past 2 seasons. And then in season 9, it suffered a small nerf, but even so, like it was still very, very good. But I think we're going past, you know, Necromancer being at the top class of the game, and now we're shifting back into, you know, Barbarian, Sorceress, and Spiritborn. So Necromancer did suffer a few nerfs, but it did get some really great buffs for some other builds. We got some really cool things coming out of the Shadow side now with Shadow Blight. Like that's going to be cool. We're going to be able to test Reap. We're going to be able to do some really cool things with the minions now. So there's some really cool things happening, but I think overall just the nerfs to Necromancer just knocked it down just a peg, which isn't a big deal overall, but it is here in B tier. Now, on to the next 3. Let's get into the biggest winners, which is this half. Okay, the biggest winners for sure is going to be Barbarian. I'm putting Barbarian at A tier over S tier. Barbarian did get some changes, a lot of good changes to the melee aspect of the character. And instead of using like a lot of like abilities that just do things like your twisters, your shockwaves or your earthquakes and stuff like this, they kind of honed it back down into the melee aspect. So there's going to be some really good melee builds like double swing. There's going to be a straight basic attack build. There's going to be some really good things that just, you know, maybe even Whirlwind will be back just without the twisters. There's going to be some cool things that you're going to be able to do with Barbarian. And they kind of just rehone the character to its roots and just full on melee instead of like all these abilities that just don't make it melee, if that makes sense to you guys. But Barbarian definitely got a lot of really good changes coming off of season 9. Now, the 2 biggest winners here, we're going to go ahead and put these both in here. Before I talk about Sorceress, we got to go Spiritborn. Man, Spiritborn was at the bottom of the barrel come season 9, halfway through season 8. And now with a lot of the changes, Spiritborn is back up to S tier. I think Spiritborn is going to be one of the best classes in season 10. It's going to be really, really fun. You're going to be able to bring back the Gorilla. Rake is going to be back with the what do we call it? Like the Panther. And then there's going to be really, really good poison builds for Spiritborn going into season 10. So I think with all of the changes, Spiritborn is just, it's going to be back at the top. I'm really curious to see which one out of these 3 with Barbarian, Sorc, and Spiritborn that's going to rise to the top. Now, last and certainly not least is my favorite class in the game behind Rogue. These are kind of interchangeable for me as the best classes that I have the most fun with, is Sorceress. In the PTR and a lot of the changes, Sorceress Ball Lightning is probably going to be the best build or one of the best farming builds in the game. And I'm excited to play it. That's what I'm going to be starting with in season 10 to farm out all of my stuff for all my other builds. So Sorceress got a lot of good changes, a lot of good buffs, and Ball Lightning is probably going to be one of the best builds in the game. There's still going to be, what's it called? I have a tier list here for this. Where is it? There's still going to be like Blizzard's still going to be strong. You got, where is it? It's not on here. Ball Lightning is insane. I can't remember the other one. Chain Lightning is going to be back. So there's going to be like, Lightning Spear is still OP. There's a lot of the fire stuff that's really, really good right now with Hydra. Hydra's still going to be incredibly powerful. So Sorceress is just still just really, really good. And I think it got some really nice buffs that just make it really, really solid in this season. Ball Lightning, like I said, is going to be absolutely incredible. But yeah, guys, so this is my tier list. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, guys. And as always, stay gaming. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.